Here we done it.
Here
We're
we
getting
are.
into multimedia. Not only a newspaper, a TV show, and now, for the first time in history, a podcast.
Woo!
This is my commitment to you, audience. From now on, every Tuesday, there will be a new podcast. Until further notice.
Until you have to pay $100.
Until I have to pay $100.
So you've got a week.
Quite a fancy kit we got here. Walk me through this kit, Deb.
The crazy thing about the SM58s is you'll watch a video or you'll see a live performance of your favorite singer, like one of the best singers ever in the world, and there they are on stage singing, and they're using SM58s, which anybody can get for
industry standard.
$200. Yeah.
I think they were more than that.
Well, 200 US, maybe. Not much.
Chronics actually sell a really good clone of the SM58, which is, if you're on a budget, you can get that for quite cheap. I bought one, and it's been like a core member of my kit for a long time. So anyway, that's not the reason why people have tuned in today to find out what toys we're using. What are we talking about? I guess what we're talking about is new beginnings. I think is like, lately I've been filming the third season of the K Road Chronicles, and we're very much focused on housing. And for a long time we've thought, just get people into housing. That's the answer. Actually, it's just the beginning for a place to grow. And I think with the new year coming up, it's just probably a good time to think about new beginnings. Like what's that great Semisonic song? Every new beginning starts with some other beginning's end.
Yeah, well, this is K Road Chronicles' first podcast from the office of the K Road Chronicles on K Road, as you might have guessed.
Yeah, you're spotted. It's in the Limchaw Food Court. It's right by the supermarket entrance. We got a Lethal Enforcer game out the front, and
I can see you got a lot of stuff in here. You got a lot of your old issues, photocopy machines,
reso machine, little fridge. It's just a handy little spot to call home away from home.
And you got a TV advertising your new season coming up.
Well, no, that's
TV
actually
season.
looping the season 1 and season 2.
Oh, right.
So if you haven't seen them, you can call in here and I can copy the issues over onto a flash drive for you, no problem. It's really cool that we're doing season stuff are back on board. NZ on Air are back on board.
Yeah, what's happening in season 3?
Season 3 is very much about housing and community building, and
Cool.
And we're doing a story about a young guy, Eric, that's just moved into the Day Street property that Auckland City Mission have just taken over. Lovely flats. It's the first time in his life.
Is it an apartment?
It's a little studio apartment. It's lovely. It's got a little kitchen, fridge, everything that you could possibly want. And then, of course, Auckland City Mission's got their wonderful new home ground facility we're covering. They've got a rooftop garden, and they've got activities and a medical centre. It's got a detox centre. It's got permanent housing. I've been up there already, and once again, lovely little flats that anybody should be proud to own.
Yeah, well, in this day and age, you should be proud to own anything at all, yeah. Everyone's flatting together tightly.
Since COVID, we really... The issue of poverty and homelessness has really quite changed since we filmed the first season of the K Road Chronicles. It was very much then about homeless people and people living on the streets. And COVID saw a huge move, a huge shift in priorities, and people got housed. And we don't have the same...
But they got housed because they were scared of COVID, not because they were scared of these people dying from...
that's true, but it's also... It might not have been the way we would have liked to have gone about it, but we did it. We got people into housing. And I think the people you see on the street now have serious behavioural issues, serious mental health issues, and they're the people that are really just, we struggle to, we can get them into housing, but they can't sustain housing.
They need the most help.
They need the most help. And, there's not a lot of money out there for mental health. Your average psychiatrist or professional therapist is $150 to $180 an hour.
Yeah, you know what the crazy thing is? I've known people personally who have applied to do the counselor's, psychiatrist program at the university, and they get denied every year because they've only got space for, 50 people or something. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're churning out graduates in industries that don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you study Egyptology?
It's like, we don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough. We can't pay our firefighters. We can't pay our nurses properly. And we're hemorrhaging good professional people every day overseas. Yeah. I mean, it's a shit situation, and there just seems to be a lack of investment in basic infrastructure. The police force is, in a state of disarray.
Is it?
Yeah, the people that are joining the police force are totally unfit for purpose. They're bullies and do-gooders, and they bring to the job their own prejudices,
agendas,
and their own issues, and it's when you've actually been around police and heard them.
Yeah, how long is the training to be a police officer?
12 weeks.
Is it? Whoa.
You know what I mean? That's why we've got such a huge gang problem, is because gangs have far more commitment to their patch. It takes years to get a gang patch.
To be a prospect. Yeah.
But, you can be a cop within 3 months. I'm excited about 2023 because, I've come a long way with the Chronicle thanks to help from people like yourself, thanks to sponsorship. We've lost some sponsors. We've had new sponsors come on. We've got market penetration on the Instagram and the Facebook, and now people are saying, "Why aren't you on TikTok?" And it's like, I think you've got to kind of commit to what you do well.
Yeah. Well, TikTok seems like more entertainment. This is more news.
News, views, and reviews.
News, views, and reviews. Yeah. What is the K Road Chronicle? It's chronicling the K Road, so it does.
Yeah, it's a chronicle. It's not trying to be terribly hard hitting or sensational, or it's I say it doesn't have to include only articles relating to K Road. It just has to be significant to our K Road audience. And who is our K Road audience? It's very bohemian. It's Māori, it's Pacifica, it's Pākehā, it's Asian, it's Arabic, it's Chinese, it's
definitely the most colourful street in Auckland.
It's the wealthy, it's the poor, it's the in-between, it's the entrepreneurs, it's the artists, it's it's such a colourful and diverse street where individuality is not only encouraged, it's celebrated. And I think we can create a virus of kindness, and all that takes is one small kind deed at a time. One small act of kindness can change the world because it creates a chain effect. If you do a random act of kindness and that person does a random act of kindness, and eventually we create a virus of kindness that spreads, Suddenly
Corona kindness.
Yeah. Suddenly kindness. People in Queen Street are like, what the fuck's going on with those people in K Road? They're all happy and smiley, and then they start getting happy and smiley. And then it spreads throughout Auckland, and then it spreads to Hamilton, and Hamilton goes, man, those Auckland fellas are so happy.
I definitely have been down K Road at some points and thought everybody on the street does seem really happy.
It's such a diverse, entertaining, sixth coolest street in the world.
According to Six.
No, Time Out magazine.
I think when you go to a new country, you've always got to find the K Road of that place. Every big city's got one, got that street, but they don't always advertise it. But you know it when you find it.
Oh, that's where Lonely Planet's quite good. Man, I read Lonely Planet when I left Thailand instead of beforehand. It would have saved me a lot of time and trouble.
Right. You're like, oh yeah, I went to Khao San Road. So what's coming up in the K Road Chronicle publication? I love reading that.
Well, in the current issue, which just came out, we got Dan the Barber on the cover. We got the never-ending adventures of Orangutan. We got a review on Gloria's Cafe. What else have we got? We've got, the normal crossword and the adult join the dots jokes. Where to get a kai from. Oh, speaking of where to get a kai from, Christmas Day, if you're a bit hard up or you're lonely or you want to get a good Christmas meal, you can go to Sataya, the Indian restaurant on Great North Road, and they'll be offering free meals.
Cool.
So just a wee plug there for Satya.
Satya,
I might be saying that wrong, but Satya. It was in the Herald this morning, so if you search the Herald, the information will be in there.
Great.
And I'll try to put some information on the...
I love Merge Cafe too on K Road. They
Merge Cafe,
have,
always
cheap
good
meals.
Always good for a...
And free on the
healthy
weekends.
cheap meal. Well, yeah. It's Haven on the weekends, which is run by somebody else. But if you like pumpkin soup, that's the place to go. But if you like
I've read that issue. What's coming up in the future issues? What have you got? Anything up your sleeve that you want to
Well, it's been really interesting with the K Road Chronicles filming of the new season, and I've come to realise that the Chronicle actually plays a more important role in letting the community know what's happening and what's going on than I realised. And we're currently in discussions with the council about possible additional funding
for the publication.
For the publication to be sustainable, because each issue costs, give or take, $500 to produce, and that's just an ink and paper. That's not paying me for any of my time or anything. So we get a little bit of sponsorship from the local community, but
you honestly, don't you use recycled paper and the ink is vegetable oil or something like that?
We print mostly on what's called a resew machine, which is kind of a cross between a photocopier. Sorry about the background noise. It is busy time at the food court. But yeah, we use a resew machine which uses vegetable-based ink. And the people say, it's paper, but paper is actually very environmentally friendly. It can be recycled up to 6 or 7 times before the fibres break down too small, and then
there's also the digital footprint just from using the internet.
The digital footprint is huge. It's the equivalent to a fleet of Boeing 747s. People think email is...
But what did you say before? There's more impact with the paper publication than the TV series. What were you saying?
There's more impact with paper, with a paper-based paper than the... I mean, it's...
Because...
It's kind of... everyone says, why not do a website? Why produce a paper? And it's because... people engage with the paper. They read it on the bus. There's nothing
it's the active thing you're talking about.
If I walk in to the NZPC or Saloon Bar or Lifewise, everyone wants a copy of the paper.
Yeah, I think with your one, I'm gonna just grab one here. Like your one, it seems to be more like fun, the kind of thing that I don't know. It's nostalgic too, like that you can only get from paper. News and jokes and weird stuff.
Look, the thing is, it's meant to be a little bit underground. It's meant to be a little bit difficult to get a hold of.
It's like a zine, right?
Well, I suppose. To me, zines are just kind of self-indulgent.
Often, yeah. They can be anything, really, though.
Yeah, I guess, by definition, it's a zine. But I think, my production
It's also more than a zine. It's also like a newspaper or a magazine.
Well, it's based on good fundamental journalistic principles.
Right.
It's not advertorial, dressed up as a story like, Verve and Ponsonby News. And
so it's kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
It's trying to be relevant. It's trying to be relevant and meaningful to the target audience. And who's the target audience?
You're trying to keep it real and have an authentic feel to it, which I think comes through.
Well, tell those stories that don't get told in mainstream media. You know what I mean? When we first did the first season of the K Road Chronicles, we were considered very niche and very, specialised, and we got funding through the minority funding group. But now we're mainstream.
Oh, right, because you've gained some success from that.
Gained some success. I mean, who would have thought a TV show presented by a transgendered person about homelessness would have been so popular?
Right.
we're kind
so
of...
So popular that you stopped being a minority. That's hilarious.
So popular we stopped being a minority. I think it's...
You're a sellout, Six.
Some people have told me I'm a sellout, and it's like, if you knew how little I make out of this.
Yeah, to sell out, you actually have to make money, right?
Yeah.
A lot of money. You got to sell.
Yeah. So I do have a 3-year, 5-year plan. So in that time, I want to make sure that the Chronicle is a sustainable model for microjournalism that would support maybe 1 or 2 journalists, an office person, photographer. It's not about making $1 million. It's about making a difference. And if we can reach people, we can communicate with them. Our audience is growing all the time. And when I say our, I mean the K Road Chronicle, because...
Have you seen your demographics?
Yeah, and it's like right across the board. It's from a lot of teenagers love the Chronicle, right up until elderly people. It's really...
What do your parents think of it?
They just think it's a nice little hobby for me. They tend to treat me as the village idiot, to be honest. It's they don't even understand what I do or why I do it. And
well, now that you're in Auckland, they'd probably think you're the city idiot.
It's funny.
It's one thing to be the village idiot, but to be the idiot of a whole city...
Oh, look, it's a lot of competition. I mean, I think... the Chronicle's it's very much my style. There's a very much tongue in cheek, and it's uplifting. It's fun to read.
It feels very self-indulgent at times. You're like, I fucking love this dad joke. I'm going to put this in here.
Why not?
Yeah, like force dad jokes on the world. Yeah.
I remember when the first couple of issues I did, and like the first couple of issues. Well, only a couple of sheets of paper they were very small.
Right.
And had a lot of people go, that's a gay publication. I was like, totally. We use homosexual paper and lesbian ink.
Whoa.
Yeah. I try to make it as appealing to as broad a spectrum of audience as possible.
Right. It's multitudes.
Well, it is multitudes, but the danger in trying to be everything to everyone is you wind up becoming nothing to anyone.
You become...
Yeah. Isn't that awful? It's. I'm not even going to we're going to cut that out because we're not even going to give them the decency of naming.
Oh, you want me to bleep that?
Just bleep the CN word. I'm trying to create something that people actually enjoy reading.
No, you're not trying to. You are creating.
Thanks.
Yeah, you are creating.
Well,
Carry on with your sentence.
A lot of times, language like that can be huge impact on you if you think I am rather than I want to.
Yeah.
It changes your stream of thinking.
Yeah, I got told that at audio engineering school because I guess they knew that none of us were going to get jobs as audio engineers. When people ask you what you do, we're like 19 or 20, tell them you're an audio engineer. Because that's what we're doing for a whole year, studying that shit. So live it, be it.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, when I graduated with my diploma of journalism, people were like, so what are you? And I was like, well, I'm a journalist because it says I'm a journalist on my qualifications.
Yeah.
Look, the problem with journalism is that any muppet can call themselves a journalist.
True, there's not like a test you have to take, like you don't have to pass the bar to be a journalist.
No, you don't. But, in saying that, though, the journalists that I respect are the people that have studied. And, like, somebody asked me once, what's a professional? You know what a professional is?
Someone who gets paid.
A professional is somebody who, first of all, produces work to a professional standard. Second of all, has invested in their skill, craft or trade. Third of all, has the respect of other people in that industry. And if you don't have one or three of those, and I'd like to think I have all three of them, I mean, there's nothing wrong with calling you a journalist if you write blogs about your weekend out. I mean,
but you're not a professional. Yeah.
Well,
I always thought it was money. It was like you got to get paid for it, but
that's definitely part of it. But if you're producing work at a professional level, then you will get paid.
Yeah.
So the money aspect of it comes.
It's like the opposite of a catch-22.
Yeah.
It's like a catch-44. Like the good thing happens, so then the other good thing happens, and then it goes back to the good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some amazing self-trained journalists that have, just gone out there and done it, and they're highly accomplished people, but
and there's a lot of them out there doing it who probably shouldn't be.
But for every self-made, every self-taught journalist, there's probably 1,000 graduates. Yeah, I mean, journalism is really, it's a model.
So you can't have had any criticism from the K Road Chronicles since you started, have you?
Yeah, I get criticism, but not a lot. I get far more support.
Like what?
It's exploitation of the homeless community.
They don't want to see that?
Why are you telling people all this stuff? Even people saying, don't put the list of community meals in because,
people go there.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's like...
Do you want me to advertise it or not?
Yeah, and then sometimes when I'm taking photos of people on the street, and I always ask people before I take their photo if I can take their photo, but you'll get somebody else a street and go, oh, what the fuck are you doing? What right do you have to tell our stories? And because it's been a long time since I lived on the street, and I lived on the street for a long time. But a lot of the new streeties, they don't know that I've been in their footsteps.
Yeah.
I've walked their path.
And been there, done that kind of before there.
Yeah, they just see me as somebody out there on the street.
Yeah.
Someone
with a home.
Yeah. So, but fortunately,
it's a pretty fucking shitty feeling not having a house, let alone a home.
Yeah, and when people share their stories with me, that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
That's a massive honour. And I take that really seriously because if I fuck it up, if I misrepresent somebody and I get their story wrong or sensationalise it or, publish it out of context, I'm done. nobody on the road will trust me.
Yeah.
You know, as a journalist, you have to build trust within your round, within your field that you write in. And whether that's politics or sports or, you know, niche industries, you have to build that trust. You have to pay your dues. And, man, I've paid my dues in quids.
Yeah. And you build that trust by giving an honest representation.
Yeah. And, you know, more and more now, people will come to me and go, can I share my story? And that's
Great.
Where else do you read stories about drug abuse, homeless people, prostitutes, drug dealers?
Usually you read it in fiction.
Yeah, so...
This is non-fiction. This is real. And
Yeah,
you're
look
not... Yeah, we're not reading about it. I mean, newspapers generally contain negative shit.
Oh, bad news is a fundamental journalism value.
Right.
See, my style...
Nobody wants to read good news.
No, if it bleeds, it leads. That's a saying in journalism.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're following that to an extent, or
no. No,
so
I mean... I
You're not.
guess my style of journalism is almost a Māori style of journalism, even though I make no claims to have Māori blood. But Māori journalism is more about people and their stories rather than issues and events.
right, it's more personal rather than political, or I mean,
Right.
by being personal, you're also making it social because
Yeah.
there's multiple people
Yeah,
in this.
and you know, as journalists, we have an obligation to represent all sectors of the community, not just the the moral
that's right.
majority.
Yeah, usually if you pick up a newspaper or magazine, if there's an interview of someone, that person is going to be rich.
Yeah, and every week there's some bullshit opinion piece by some wanker I don't know and don't care about, writing about shit I'm not interested in and could care less about.
Yeah, it's weird. The thing is, I don't want to sound morbid, but you know, you've heard that like TV shows about dark things, you know, serial killers or whatever, and podcasts and shit is really getting popular now. And maybe that is people are sick of hearing all these Hollywood stories with the happy ending and such. People actually want to hear more reality, not just from the rich people, you know,
I think
point of view.
I think human beings are inherently very voyeuristic. And if we can see people in the media and read stories about people and see programs about things that we can relate to, that we can
Right.
see ourselves in,
Yeah.
we can empathize with how that might have
Yeah,
happened.
you can connect to that character.
You can connect that. And it's, you know, stories are invaluable for allowing us to build understanding and empathy with people and cultures and situations that we may not ever encounter.
Yeah, and that makes them much more interesting too. You know, if the average person has the story of, say, yeah, I went to school, went to uni, I got married, I started my job, and then I retired and died, you're not going to hear that same story from someone on the street.
No, I mean... And,
Everybody's
you know,
got a different story.
I believe that everybody has their own story and everybody has a story to share. You know, one thing I've learned in my 52 years on this planet is that everybody at some stage in their life will experience trauma.
Right.
And from trauma comes great stories.
Yeah. And hopefully growth. I feel like to change as a person, to really change, you need to go through some kind of hardship or something to be like, damn, I got through that. I'm not the same now, but it'll do.
I know when my ex and I broke up, it took me years to get over that. I just feel like such an arsehole. I felt like I'd let my family down. I felt like I'd let my partner down. I felt like I'd let my child down. And I punished myself. I punished myself severely. But I got to the stage, I had nothing. I was on the street. And it's like, when do I forgive myself?
True. You would forgive someone else who
Yeah.
did that.
And you know what? I mean, I'm not a religious person, but what does it say in the Bible? Forgive me of my trespasses,
Forgive those who trespass against
as I
you.
forgive those who trespass upon me. And
Yeah.
to me, that means, how can I expect to be forgiven for my fuck-ups? Because we all fuck
Yeah,
up. We all
right.
make mistakes. If I can't forgive other people,
Or you can't forgive yourself.
or I can't forgive myself.
Yeah. I watched this cool documentary the other day about this therapist who's working with Jonah Hill, and he said about if anybody that you have kind of a grievance against, the trick is to concentrate in your body the feeling of love and then just shoot it out as a laser beam at that person and fill it like 100% of your love into that person that you don't like. And what happens in the end is that person turns into like a sun of light, and then you realize you're surrounded by it. Anyway.
I'll tell you the story about the reverse of that. And this is part of the reason why I'm called Six.
Whoa.
I had a falling out with the management at Merge Cafe. And long story short, they fired me.
Oh, you worked there. What did you do?
I was just volunteering in the kitchen and helping out.
That sucks when you get fired when you're a volunteer.
I know. It does. It really does. So anyway, I was so angry and so hostile about it. That night I sat outside Lifewise and I just focused all my anger and hatred at them.
Wow.
Like solidly for about 12 hours. And you know what, the next day, the senior manager got made redundant.
Whoa.
And the other manager, son, tried to commit suicide.
Oh, God.
So don't be.
But what I was saying about the sun thing is it's supposed to come back to you. So in your scenario, if it was an exact opposite metaphor, it would also come back and you would be punished too somehow for sending out that negative energy.
Well, I suppose I was, but I can't remember it. And that is the thing too.
You were already being...
If you do, like... But when you do tap into these energies, if you do wish ill will against somebody, you will have to pay for that.
Yeah.
In like some way or another. Karma is a bitch.
Yeah. I think, and yeah, not in a way that we understand the word karma to mean, but I do think that you can't really feel good in yourself if you're doing bad to others.
No. And that will manifest somehow.
That will haunt you. You were ghost hunting the other night. You believe in hauntings?
Yeah. Cigarette break?
Cigarette break. Do a little plug for what's something.
All right. A little plug, White Lady, St. Kim's Arcade, K Road. They've been an amazing support to me. And, they have milkshakes from $6, toasted sandwiches, the best burgers you will ever eat. Check them out anytime. Support them. They support me. Thank you.
The White Lady. So we just took a cigarette break and we're on K Road.
Yeah, sorry if my breath smells a bit.
And we're talking to a friend and we said, we're doing this podcast. What's something we should talk about on the podcast? What do you think? We're just like, brainstorming a few ideas. And he said, you should tell all the rich people, all the people with money, to koha, to give koha. And we were like, yeah, that's good. Yeah. And what is the definition of koha is different to donation, to make donation?
Koha is a gift of appreciation. So there can be time, there can be resources, there can be food, there can be cash, obviously. But, we need to create a more philanthropic society because I think the people who have the resources and have the assets have a moral obligation to share that with their wider community. And, we were talking before about getting people into housing, and the people we've failed to get into housing And, those failures we can turn around with a bit of love and kindness. I saw just while we were out having a break, I saw one of the old street queens, angry. And I was thinking, that's really hostile behaviour. But, this is a person who's, had a shit life.
Suffered hardship.
And, they're angry. Of course they're angry.
Right.
It's generations of trauma. It's generations of, dysfunction. It's the Pākehā imposing their beliefs and ways on people with a completely different cultural mindset.
Totally. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't, a little bit of
koha.
A little bit of koha and understanding goes a hell of a long way.
Yeah. What are your hopes for the K Road Chronicle future?
I don't really have hopes. I think hope is a defeatist emotion. I have plans.
Okay.
So the plan is to increase production this year so that we're producing more Chronicles more often, get more contributors on board. I think the format's probably about right. Now we've got
You've got a format. You're saying first thing is content. Second is audience.
Well, this is like these are like I was saying. How do I measure my success? How do I know that I'm gaining traction? And I thought the only thing I can focus on is producing content. So that's my KPI. My key performance indicator is to produce content.
If you are producing content, you're doing
content.
well.
Yeah, content leads to an audience. An audience builds influence, and influence brings opportunities, and opportunities deliver income. So that's the model, that's the plan. There is a very detailed...
In the end, if you can't achieve an income, you can't continue producing your content because you have to do something else.
Well, I really only want to do the Chronicle for probably another 2 or 3 years, and then hand it over to a protege who can continue.
Who would you give it to? Who would this protege be in your mind?
In my mind, there's somebody similar to myself, shared values, somebody
who's experienced K Road extensively as well?
Well, not necessarily, but perhaps somebody that's, been through hardships and overcome them and wants to make a difference more than an income.
Right.
I think the population of K Road is predominantly fringe citizens, like whether that's homeless or artists or sex workers or people in the hospitality industry. It's people generally on the fringe who aren't well represented in mainstream media. People who have stories to share, have stories to tell. And a lot of the stories we get doing now are stories about, overcoming those hardships and...
Yeah. So there is hope. I believe, hope is good for you. You can't be a pessimist. You have to have a bit of hope.
Yeah, you do. But I just think the word hope is kind of a defeatist.
Right, because it's passive in a way.
You're giving up control. You're saying, I hope this happens.
True that. Yeah.
I hope this happens, but
I hope God has planned this for me.
Yeah, I hope the sun comes up tomorrow. If it doesn't, I'll be miffed.
Yeah, it's cool to podcast with you again.
Look, I'm gonna post this on my K Road Chronicle YouTube channel. So if you want to put down in the comments section below who you'd like me to interview, what you'd like me to talk about, any comments, any questions, feel free to subscribe. What's the other thing? Tap the bell. Share with your mates.
Sound the air horn. And it would be cool to see you interviewing people around K Road. Podcast format's pretty popular these days. Yeah,
I made a commitment to do more video and more podcasts, so expect something each week That's my KPI, key performance indicator. I'll make Tuesday my target day, and
Do you have a minimum time?
no,
Just our podcast.
just a podcast.
Could be 2 minutes.
Could be 2 minutes. Could be 2 hours.
All right.
So, thanks everybody for your support. Support me on Patreon. Look, check out the Instagram. Share the love, and as long as you support what I'm doing, I'll keep doing it. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you before the new year, because next Tuesday is Boxing Day, I believe. No, day after Boxing Day. So, kia kaha, New Zealand. We'll get through this shit.